Hello everybody, Jennifer Maker here. It's a beautiful day to learn how to sublimate a custom blanket. In this video, I'll show you how to make this beautiful grid blanket, but you can also use the same techniques to make lots of different styles too. If you've worked with sublimation transfers before, you already know that they work best on fabrics that are 100% polyester and white because the ink requires polymers to bind to, right? Sublimation ink does. Plus, the sublimation ink is translucent, so colors other than white can impact your results. Now, blankets come in several different styles and sizes. Just make sure that you pick an option with at least 65% polyester. Of course, if you're brand new to sublimation, be sure to check out my Sublimation for Beginners guide at jennifermaker.com/sublimation for beginners. It's a great place to start. Now, I'm testing out the grid style blanket, plus a plain white fleece blanket and a plushier one with 2 layers. The blankets aren't very expensive, but it's a good idea to have some simple white polyester fabric on hand to try out your designs before committing to the project and using your blanket. I have both the blankets and fabric linked in my material list at jennifermaker.com/574. In this video, I'll show you how to add designs to the grid blanket, including some tips on how to print your own images large enough to completely fill the empty spots, but with a normal size sublimation printer. That's right, we are going to tile designs to do this. You do not need a wide format printer to cover lots of areas. I'll also show you how to prepare some of my free flower and heart designs to fit in other grid spaces as well, right? Just like I've done here. You can use other software to prepare and print the designs, but I found some of the free Cricut Design Space tools very helpful when creating my tiles for my blanket. Now we're going to cover the temperature, time, and pressure that work best for me in this video, but it's always a good idea to test just in case you need to adjust the variables for your materials and tools. And of course, this is a sublimation project, so you'll need a sublimation printer with sublimation ink in it and sublimation paper. And I'm going to use 8.5 by 14-inch legal size paper this time because I want to make my designs as big as possible on my normal size printer. Cutting your tiled photo carefully is really important in this project, so we'll show you how to do that with a metal safety ruler and a Cricut True Control craft knife and a self-healing mat. This knife is sharp, so please follow the safety instructions that I'll share in this video. And while we're using Cricut software to prepare everything, we'll do all the cutting by hand, so you don't actually need a Cricut cutting machine for this project. You will need a fan for ventilation, always be safe, some white cardstock and uncoated white butcher paper for catching any excess ink, a lint roller to prepare your surface, and some heat-resistant tape to keep everything in place during pressing. And speaking of pressing, I'm using a Cricut Easy Press with a pressing mat, but you can use a flat heat press that reaches the temperature you need. A handheld press that can cover your design elements will be easier than a clamshell press for this project because you don't want to reactivate the ink on earlier transfers each time you add a new one. Heat presses are not all the same, so I have information for different press types in my sublimation cookbook, which you can get over at jennifermaker.com/sublimation cookbook, filled with all the times, temperatures, and pressures that we could possibly think of. And if you like the idea of a sublimated blanket but want to use different shapes for your photos, like I did on this heart blanket, stay tuned to the last step for more details. So, are you ready to make a blanket with me? Let me show you how to get my free files, and then we'll get started. Step 1, get my free sublimation designs. To show you how to sublimate a blanket, I created some heart and floral designs, which you are welcome to use. I'm going to demonstrate how it works with these floral designs, and I encourage you to practice with these until you feel confident. So to get them, first download the designs at jennifermaker.com/574. You can either download right from that link by saving the project or download from my entire free design collection. To find it, look for libraries in the red bar at the top, and then click either get a password if you don't yet have one, or click enter the library. Search the page for design number 574 and click the link to download the designs. There are many designs in the PNG folder. There's heart shapes in different colors that align with the border flowers, flowers in a heart shape, 2 single flowers, a flower bunch, several single hearts, and a group of hearts using different color patterns. I used an AI art generator to create the designs, then adjusted them with image editing software. If you want to learn more about the process, check out my workshop on creating and using AI-generated art in your crafts over at jennifermaker.com/AI art. And if you're not sure how to upload files like this, go to jennifermaker.com/svgs to learn how to unzip and upload files to Cricut Design Space. Step 2, prepare and print your designs. Before you start designing, you need to know your grid dimensions on your blanket. Even though the packaging had the dimensions of the openings, some of mine were uneven, so it's really best to measure the height and width of each one. The fabric is stretchy, so make sure each grid is flat but not stretched during your measurements. If you want your photo to completely fill the white space, you'll need to make the pieces large enough to overlap the grids where they're the furthest apart. So record the grid with the largest height and width and use that as your design size. And it's okay if the grid opening is a little uneven and larger than your printer can handle. We will tile the photos in Cricut Design Space and print them on 8.5 by 14 inch legal size paper. This is also a good time to plan your design by deciding how many boxes you want to fill with photos and which other design elements you want to put in the other spaces on your grid. I'll use some of the hearts and flowers too. And I found it easiest to prepare and print my images using Cricut Design Space. You can download the app for free at design.cricut.com. And you won't need a Cricut cutting machine to use the software. I'll show you how to cut the designs by hand. So once you have Cricut Design Space downloaded and open, click Upload. Select Upload Image, then browse to find the photo that you want to use. Use a large, high-quality photo since you'll need to print it very large to fill a grid opening. I'll use this photo of myself because it has some really clear lines, like the hat brim, and that will help us with aligning the tiles later. Select Complex for the image type so Cricut knows we want all of the colors in detail, and then click Continue. Now you don't need to remove a background or make edits, so just click Apply and Continue. The next screen lets you pick from a basic cut version that just has the photo shape, or a print then cut version with the printed color details as well. So select Print then Cut Image and click Upload. On the next screen, select your photo and click Add to Canvas. Now the photo may come in very large because of its high resolution, but no worries, you can fix it. Also, you might see a red icon next to it in the Layers panel, and when you see a warning symbol like this, you can click it to learn more about the problem. This says the photo is too big to fit on our paper, which is fine because we are going to resize it. But if the paper listed isn't the size you plan to use, click Change Page Size and pick the correct dimensions by Print Then Cut Page Size. Then click Done to make the change. I'm using 8.5 by 14 inch paper or legal size instead of the standard 8.5 by 11 inch letter size paper because the extra length provides more print area and flexibility. Now the red icon is still there, so the photo is still too big for the larger paper. That's okay because we're going to tile it to fill a grid square using 2 pieces. But we need to shape the photo first. So to begin, click the Shapes icon. And then select a free square from the menu and add it to your canvas. We need this square to match the largest grid opening we measured, so make sure the lock icon in the upper size area is closed. The closed lock means you can change either the W field for width or the H field for height, and the other dimension will be automatically adjusted proportionately. I want a 10 by 8.5 inch square, so if I put that measurement in for the W field and hit the return or enter key, it makes the height the same, maintaining the proportions. Now use the Operation drop-down menu at the top of the screen to change the square from a basic cut layer to Guide. And you can see through it and it won't be part of the final design. Drag the square over the image so the subject is within the shape. You'll likely need to make some adjustments, so select the photo so that the bounding box shows around it. The bounding box lets you control the layer size and its rotation, which we won't use right now, but it's a helpful tool to know about. With the lock icon closed, drag a corner of the photo's bounding box in to make it smaller, so the subject fits better in the guide square. This takes some adjustment to get perfect, but just keep adjusting the size and position until the image in the guideline square includes just what you want on the blanket. And make sure there isn't any white at the edges so the ink will completely fill and slightly overlap the grid. Remember, we're going to make a seam in the middle, so try not to put a very important detail like an eye right in the middle where we'll need to overlap the halves when we tile. I'll try to put my face a little off-center to avoid that. Now hold the Shift key on your keyboard to select both the guideline and the photo in the Layers panel, and then click Slice to crop the photo to the right size. You'll now see 3 slice results in the Layers panel: the guide and 2 print then cut layers, one with the part of the photo that was inside the guide and one with everything that was outside of the guide. We want the part inside the guide since it's the correct size for the grid, so delete the excess background layer, but keep the guide for now. Since the photo is still too big to print, we need to slice our photo again so its pieces each fit within the print then cut area. If we put a seam down the middle of the 10.85 inch image, each piece would be roughly 5.5 inches wide and 10.85 inches tall, which will fit on the 8.5 by 14 inch sublimation paper. It's not quite as simple as that because we need a little bit of overlap in the middle to cover the seam. So select the square guide again, but this time click the lock icon to open the proportions since we need a rectangle, so you want your lock to be unlocked. Change the W, the width field, to be half of the grid square plus 0.2 inches for a small overlap. So for me, that's 5.625 inches. And since we need to overlap the seam with matching pieces of the photo, select the image and click the duplicate icon above the Layers panel. Move the copy aside for now. We'll use the original photo layer to create the left side of the tiled image. So hold the Shift key to select both it and the guide. The guide needs to be perfectly positioned for the tiles to match. So select Align in the top menu and then choose Align Left. Then select Align and Align Top to get the final position to cover the left half of the original image. And just like before, click Slice to crop the photo. Delete the right photo half outside the guide. Now we have the left tile. To make the right side tile, hold down the Shift key to select the guide and the duplicated photo in the Layers panel. This time, click Align, but choose Align Right to line up the object's right edges instead of the left. Then use Align and choose Align Top to make sure you get everything. Now click Slice to cut the pieces. Make sure you delete the sliced result layer with the excess image, not your left tile. You can use these steps to tile as many photos as you want to put into your grids on your blanket. If you don't want to put a photo in every grid opening, because it does take a lot of time and ink, you can also sublimate smaller designs that will work nicely on the white background, like the heart and flower designs I've included for you. Pick the ones you like and add them to the canvas as complex print then cut images. For example, I want to add a flower heart to one grid opening, so I'll upload that PNG. Remember, that red icon means the design is too big, so click on it. And the paper size listed is correct, so this time click Auto Resize Image, and Design Space will make the design as big as possible while staying in the print then cut area. You could make it smaller, of course, but this takes some of the guesswork out. To recreate the blanket design that I'm making, upload the 3 large hearts, the flower bouquet, the flower with leaves, and the 4 heart groups. You can use the red icon and auto resize tool to see the maximum dimensions that will work for each one. But you can also resize them to fit the look you want, of course. Now you may see a yellow warning icon in the layers panel even after resizing some designs, and that's okay. If we click that yellow warning icon, you'll see it's Cricut Design Space saying that the image has low resolution or not enough detail in the file to make a nice looking print at a big size. But it will print just fine at the size needed for the blanket, I promise. But going much bigger won't look as nice. This is also a good time to roughly plan your blanket. If you want to use every grid opening, make sure you have enough elements by putting them in rows and columns. Here's how I'd plan the top 2 rows of my blanket. This is also a good time to click Save and give your blanket project a name if you haven't already. Your designs are ready for printing. And don't worry if the guide is still visible, it won't print on any of the images. So make sure the correct machine is selected in the top corner and then click Make. On the Prepare screen, make sure your material size is set to 8.5 by 14-inch legal if you're using the same size paper as me. Click Mirror for each mat since we'll apply the designs face down and use heat to transfer them. This way they'll look correct in the end. And then click Continue. On the Make screen, select the first mat that has a photo tile and then click Send to Printer. Select your Sublimation printer from the printer drop-down to show the associated settings that you can control. Yours may look different than mine depending on your operating system and your printer, but this recording from my Mac is still a helpful reference for you, I think. Add Bleed adds a little extra ink that matches your design all around its edges as a buffer, so there isn't any white space between the design and the cut edge. But since our tiles are precisely planned and we are not using the Cricut to actually cut them, that extra ink could actually throw things off, so do not turn on Add Bleed. Toggle Use System Dialog on, however, for more control of your printer settings. Now click Print and then minimize or move the Cricut Design Space screen to find the Print dialog box because it's usually behind that Cricut window. The dialog box should have the correct printer selected, but just double check to be sure. Your settings will likely look different than mine. The important things are to set the media or paper to an option such as Premium Photo Matte and your quality to Best or Highest. We've already mirrored the designs, so keep any options like flip horizontally unchecked or you'll undo the mirroring. Now make sure your sublimation paper is loaded correctly in your printer. If you're not sure how to do that, there should be notes on the packaging and the printer to help, and then click Print. Once the first sheet is printed, set it aside, being careful not to smudge the ink. Now back in Cricut Design Space, select the mat with the other half of the photo and print it using the same settings. Printing all the pages takes time, and you'll need to go back to Cricut Design Space to select the next photo or design mat and print them using the same settings as you go. But once everything is printed, you don't need Cricut Design Space any longer, and you can close that. Now we need to put our photo tiles together so they completely fill the grid opening. I found a combination of techniques that works best, so let's try them out. First, place both tile halves face up on your table. I'll start with the left half as that has the seam edge on the right. The seam edge needs to be perfectly straight, so a metal safety ruler, a craft knife, and a self-healing mat are your best options for prints this large. If you use smaller paper, the Cricut paper trimmer or any other paper trimmer really is also a good option, or you can use scissors, but note that scissors will make it more difficult to get a really nice seam. Now, cutting safety is super important. I'm demonstrating as a right-handed person, so adjust this for your needs, but please be careful. The safety ruler has a vertical protective piece, which I want you to pretend is a wall coming straight up from the work surface. Your dominant hand and the craft knife must stay on the side of the wall with the skinnier ruler section. while your other hand must stay on the other side to hold the ruler in place. The vertical metal piece will protect your fingers, and you can press straight down to keep the ruler very steady thanks to the grippy surface on the tool's back. Place the photo face up on a self-healing mat and put your safety ruler along the right side of the image so just a little ink is visible beyond the metal. Make sure the ruler's skinny edge is closer to the white paper that you want to cut away. Align the photo's top and bottom edges with marks on the ruler to make sure your vertical cut will be straight. Using the paper edges isn't as reliable though, because the image may not have been perfectly straight on the paper, so keep that in mind. Now carefully uncap the knife and put the cover on the back for safekeeping. The blade is very sharp, so please be careful. Press the ruler in place with your protected hand and place the knife blade right against the ruler's cutting edge just above the paper. In a smooth motion with just a little pressure straight down to keep the blade from slipping, drag the blade toward you through the paper. Keep the blade's edge right against the ruler and you will get a nice straight cut. Then place the right half of the image face up on a self-healing mat. You can turn it so the seam's edge is on the right for cutting just like the other half was. For this half of the tile, we want to leave some white paper to the left of the image for the overlap, but we need to remove the registration marks so they don't bleed through. So place your ruler with the cutting edge between the image's seam edge and the vertical sections of the black registration marks. Again, align the ruler's marks to the photo's top and bottom edges, then safely cut away the excess paper. Let's see how we did. Hold the paper by the edges to avoid getting any skin oils on the ink, and then line the image halves with the white seam edge underneath. Use the photo's edges for alignment. When the seam looks perfect, use heat-resistant tape to secure it below the image. Then tape the top section above the photo. Now they shouldn't shift. Carefully flip the paper and tape the entire image seam with heat-resistant tape on the back side. Press the seam with your scraper tool or fingernail to smooth any gaps and really secure the halves together. Now flip the paper and use your ruler and craft knife to trim all the white and registration marks away on all 4 edges. Remember to always cut safely. Use the same process to prepare any other large tiled images. When it's time to prepare a design that doesn't completely fill the grid opening, like the floral heart, you don't need to be as precise. But the paper's cut edge can leave an indent during pressing. So to avoid that, we can tear the paper or feather around the designs. Just be careful not to get too close to the ink when you tear it. And make sure you remove the black registration marks or they could definitely transfer to your blanket. Step 3, prepare and press the sublimation blanket. Remember, always open a window and or turn on a fan before sublimating to help improve your ventilation. Now the blanket is a big project, so I found it easiest to work on one square at a time. I'll demonstrate adding the tiled image to a corner opening. Place your pressing mat on the pressing area. Add clean white cardstock on top of the mat to protect it from any excess ink. Put the first grid opening face up on the protected pressing mat, making sure it's smooth, unstretched, and doesn't have any extra fabric underneath it. Set your heat press to the correct temperature and time. According to my Sublimation cookbook, the Cricut Easy Press needs to be set at 385 degrees Fahrenheit or 196 degrees Celsius for 60 seconds for polyester blankets. Now lint roll the first design area to remove any dust or debris. This is really important since the ink will dye any polymers it meets. You don't want to sublimate lint that gets swept away in the wash. Now put some fresh butcher paper on top of the design area to protect the fibers from direct heat. The black grid on my blanket is sublimation ink, so make sure it's completely covered too, or some ink could transfer to your press. Lightly press the design area for 10 seconds to remove excess moisture from the material and smooth out any wrinkles. Now use your hand to brush the blanket's fibers all in one direction so the ink sublimates a smoother, more consistent surface. If the fibers are sublimated when they're all like swirled, the ink will dye different surfaces, creating an uneven or blurry result. Then gently adjust the blanket so the open grid area is on the covered pressing mat and the fabric isn't stretched at all. Remember, the grid lines may not be straight, and that's why we made the tiled image a little bigger. So focus on getting the fabric to lay flat. Now place the tiled photo face down so the image is correctly oriented for the blanket design. And since the grid lines are wavy, do your best to completely cover the white blanket area without stretching or moving the fabric. Tape it in place with heat-resistant tape so just a little bit touches the grid lines. Now, I noticed that the adhesive can lift some of the black grid ink, so the less the tape touches the grids, the less it will be impacted. Now place a fresh piece of butcher paper on top of the blanket and the tape design so the entire grid is covered. Don't leave any of the grid's ink uncovered because it could stain your press. Since the tiled image is larger than my heat press, I'll need to sublimate it in sections without a lot of overlap. Add more butcher paper around the design to protect the other areas too. And depending on your press size, try working in halves or quarters. Press each section with light pressure for 60 seconds at the correct temperature, and then move on to the next spot with just a little bit of overlap with the first spot you sublimated. Make sure each area is pressed for the complete time needed. After pressing, allow the design to sit for about 10 seconds to let the ink settle as it transforms back into a solid from a gas. This setting time really helps prevent blurry edges, which is called ghosting. Now remove the butcher paper, tape, and transfer sheet to reveal the first photo on your blanket. Move the next design area on top of your pressing mat and repeat the whole process. Take your time and you'll have a beautiful custom blanket in not too long. Remember to move the pressing pad as needed and to lint roll and preheat the design area for the best results. When you're adding a design that doesn't fill the opening, just position it how you want and use heat-resistant tape to secure it in place face down. Always cover the entire area that the press will touch with fresh butcher paper and don't let your heat press get too near existing designs or the ink could reactivate. Step 4, show it off. And here's how my Sublimation grid blanket came out. Doesn't this look great? I love it. And all these cute little dog photos. That's my favorite part. Step 5, customize it. If you love the idea of these blankets, but think it would be fun to use different shapes for your photos or create an all-over design without using a grid blanket, this is totally possible to do. You can get the custom templates that I made for my header blanket and learn how to use it through a special program I have called Advance with Jennifer Maker. The Advanced program helps you advance your crafting skills by teaching you how to truly make these popular designs unique and special through exclusive tutorials and templates, as well as give you advanced access to my vast library of designs, projects, and resources. Now, I may or may not be accepting new members into the Advanced program at the time that you see this, but if you're interested, go to jennifermaker.com/advance to learn more. How fun are these blankets? There are so many possibilities now that you know how to add designs to them. I really like the grid blanket because of the final result. I mean, this is so cool. But keep in mind, this is a pretty thin blanket. I did find a 2-layered white blanket that is much thicker and more plush, and that sublimated really well. That one would make a really great and cozy gift. Now, caring for these sublimated blankets is pretty easy because the ink dyes the fibers instead of sitting on top of them like heat transfer vinyl would. Just wait at least a day or so everything sets, then wash it with cold or warm water and mild detergent. Then hang it to dry or tumble dry with low heat. The design will last as long as the blanket. So if you love this project as much as I did and want to learn more about sublimation, be sure to check out my Sublimation Startup mini course at jennifermaker.com/sublimation startup. I walk you through all the basics from setting up a sublimation printer with the right ink to which tools are helpful for beginners. I also show you how to use free software to print designs and share all of my tips on getting the best results with each press. Not to mention, I've got tons of ideas and designs for projects that you can sublimate. You can sign up right now and learn at your own pace without any pressure. I also have a Facebook group just for sublimation, which is a great way to see all of the fun that you can have with it and all of the amazing things that you can make. Whether you're new to sublimation or not, come join us over at jennifermaker.com/sublimation group. I'd love to have you come ask questions, share ideas, and get inspired. And that's it for today. Until next time, this is Jennifer Maker reminding you to craft a life you love.